Guys, I have to talk about this because from the beginning of this debate, I was so happy that the first question was about the coronavirus response. And I'm so happy that Kamala Harris got the first question and was asked, what would you have done any differently than what the president's current administration had done? And I was so happy because I've been saying it over and over and over and over and over again. The Democrats don't have a plan on corona, okay? And they go on TV and they buy out the media to make you think that they would have handled this better than the current administration, and it's just not true. They don't have a plan. They don't know what to do. And like I said before, they're half the government. So I want to break down and analyze that response and Vice President Pence's response to that. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a liberal's worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys, watch this clip of Kamala Harris and Vice President Pence sparring on the COVID-19 response.
Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that. And frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before, there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China. President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done, and that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resources and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Let's go through what Kamala said regarding what their plans would have been. She said basically contact tracing, which is what the president is already doing. We're already doing that. When I had COVID, I had a contact tracer call me. They're talking about working on a vaccine, which President Trump has been working on. The administration has been very, 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 very forefront about how soon there's going to be a vaccine. And she talked about widespread / free testing. And I think everybody can agree that testing has been very widely spread and available under the Trump administration, which is something he's really done a great job of improving over time. And that is why we're one of the most tested countries in the world, which is also why we have the most cases, is because we've tested the most. I mean, that is just a factual statement. Now, what she did mention, and what she was specifically asked, is will you have further shutdowns for schools and businesses, and small businesses specifically, and would you implement mandates? And you notice, like a bunch of other questions at this debate, she completely avoided the answer. And I think Vice President Pence's follow-up to this was perfect. It was absolutely perfect, because he went into what the administration had done early back in January in terms of suspending travel from China and other parts of the world, at the same time in which people like Kamala were trying to impeach the president based off BS that they knew wasn't going to pass through the Senate. They were spending time impeaching the president as if they couldn't have been a part of trying to have a response to this virus. And again, it's important for me to talk about this because we have to spin the narrative on this virus, guys. That's where we're at this point, because the media and the Democrats have convinced people two things: that the deaths are on President Trump's hands, which is not true, and that the Democrats somehow would have done a better job, or there was more that could have been done. And we have to disprove that narrative. So that's the whole point of me making this video. And I think Vice President Pence did a good job of getting to that. He also talked about testing. How, again, we've tested almost more people than any other country in the world. If you look at our daily test to positivity rate, we're one of the best in the world, right? We're above standard according to the World Health Organization. The standard is like 5%. We're like 4.6%. And we tested almost more people than any other country in the world. That's a good thing. Now, he also pointed out very specifically, and I love it, how he accused the Biden-Harris administration of essentially plagiarism in terms of their plan for fighting this virus compared to the Trump-Pence administration. And this is my point. They don't have a plan. If the Democrats were in office, nothing would have been different, guys. Nothing would have been different. And it is very important to bring that point across to the American people, because they need to understand that COVID is not going away if there's a Harris-Biden or Biden-Harris, whatever you want to call it, administration. It's not going away. It's not. They're not going to do any better. For example, if there happens to be a vaccine under the Biden-Harris administration, it's going to be the same exact vaccine that President Trump has been trying to develop under his administration. It's not like they're going to get in office and all of a sudden there's going to be different companies working on the vaccine. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And that's why it's sleazy and slimy for Kamala Harris to try to downplay the vaccine if President Trump says, hey, we have a vaccine, you should take it, which she tried to do in this debate. She tried to tell people that she wouldn't trust a vaccine under the Trump administration. She strongly implied that, which would be the same vaccine that we would have under their administration. And her trying to undermine that vaccine is her trying to undermine science. And we have to reverse the narrative on that, because they want to try to paint us as the party of anti-science. We don't believe in science, when that's not true. Like Vice President Pence pointed out, we've listened to the scientists and the doctors on this COVID response. When this first came out here in early March, where it really started to pick up, the estimated death toll was at least 2 million Americans. Here we are 6-7 months later, and we have 200,000 deaths. Now, don't get me wrong, 200,000 is still, a lot of people. However, that's if you actually even believe the numbers in terms of those deaths, because a lot of deaths that are being associated with COVID aren't actually from COVID. Like, for example, you get in a car accident and you happen to have COVID, they may count you as a COVID death. And there's a lot of speculation around whether or not these deaths are even, again, from COVID in the first place. But I really don't want to get into that because it gets away from what the main point is, which is that we're doing a hell of a lot better than what the projections were at the beginning of this whole thing. And I think Vice President Pence did a great job of explaining that, because he also mentioned that we have to have an unprecedented shutdown of the economy in order to avoid it. That didn't necessarily happen. We did not have to shut our economy down as a whole. We shut down some parts of it, but the whole economy was not shut down. A lot of people did keep their jobs. A lot of people did stay at work, but there was a lot of unemployment as well. But we didn't shut down to the point that some of these other European countries had shut down, and some of these other countries around the world. We were able to save some of our economy. We were able to save jobs and still have a much less death toll than what they had initially predicted from the get-go. And again, I've said this over and over again. We have to reverse the narrative. Most of the deaths from this coronavirus come from the Northeast. States like New York, New Jersey, that have the highest death toll per capita. We have to start flipping the narrative and saying, listen, there may be 200,000 deaths, but if you're gonna blame 200,000 on President Trump, at least 30 to 40 or 50,000 of them got to go on Cuomo. They got to go on the Democrats. Half of them got to go on the Democrats, really, because you run half of the country. When this virus first started, you did nothing to try to stop this virus or to help us prepare for this virus, because you guys were too busy wasting time and taxpayer dollars trying to impeach President Trump on BS. That is the narrative that we have to create. And I think President Pence, and I think Vice President, I want to keep calling him President Pence because, again, he's so damn presidential. But Vice President Pence did a great job of really driving home that point that we did what we can do, and that you should also not disrespect the first responders and our first line workers that have worked hard and diligently to try to stop this virus as much as they could. That was actually a great response, because it is disrespectful for Kamala to go up there and say that this administration has done nothing when this administration has mobilized first responders, our military, emergency supplies, everything that they could do to help curb this response, and particularly to help some of these Democrat states that are poorly run, like New York and New Jersey and California. He's done everything he could do, and to try to downplay that is disrespectful to those who were on the front lines working against COVID, including all the doctors, military, medical professionals, even those that are working in the grocery stores and essential businesses. It is completely disrespectful for you to downplay every aspect of the response from this administration, because it's just not true that the administration has done nothing or what they've done has not worked, because, again, it was predicted to have 2 million deaths at the beginning, and we've significantly lowered that. And we're at 200,000. Again, we're not trying to downplay that 200,000, but even the 200,000 that we have, like I said before, there is a reasonable argument to be made about how many of those deaths actually came from COVID. So I love this exchange between Vice President Pence and Kamala Harris, because it really shows just how we need to flip the narrative, and that Vice President Pence did an excellent job of doing that, and he knew that going into the debate. So he gets an A+ for this segment, man. I mean, he really killed it in his debate. So I really love it. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.